Hi guys, it's Jeff here, the Photographer's Mentor. So in this live, we're going to be talking with some of the leading photography industries associations within the UK, which have come together collectively in the Coalition of Photographers. And this is a group that we've together, everybody's set up to try and get some recognition and try and put forward the plight to the government at the state of the photography industry at the moment. Now, obviously, one of the big things is, this is the people who are part of this group, the people who are getting involved with this group are giving their time freely. So, all the association heads are giving up their time freely. People involved within the industry, suppliers are giving up their time freely. I'm giving up my time freely. And this is not going to be an overall solution for everybody. But what we're going to try and do is raise the plight of photographers within the industry, especially those of wedding and event photographers, because at the moment in the UK, they're really, really suffering, but it also is having a knock-on effect for other photographers as well. So from a marketing point of view, what I would say is, we can't hold out for this being the magic answer, this being the magic one. We've still, as photographers, got to diversify. We've got to think about alternate ways, and I work with a lot of photographers in the UK who are both wedding and event photographers who've had to change, who've had to look at a different direction and look at other ways they can utilize their skills to still keep their business moving and still keep generating income. So this is going to be a voice collectively for photographers and videographers as well, to get ourselves heard, to put our message out there, because other industries are doing that. The hospitality trade have got their own sort of coalition body together to put forward their plight to the government and to people who might be able to raise awareness. So I've got with me other representatives from within the community. So I'm going to open up the screen and bring in the guests. And we're going to hand over to Colin Jones from the societies, and he's going to give us a basic sort of rundown of what's going to be happening and how you as photographers can really get involved. And now it's not just a case of joining this Facebook group, as you see at the bottom of the screen there, the Coalition of Photographers Facebook group. So if you're not in, get yourself along and join that. And one thing I'm going to be doing on Friday, when we're all being asked to print out these letters, buy our stamps and post these letters, these pre-done letters. So all we've got to do, simple job, buy some stamps, buy some envelopes, go and do that today, do that tonight, buy some stamps, buy some envelopes. So all you got to do Friday morning is print them out and walk a couple hundred yards up the road to the post box and stick them in. It's easy being part of a group saying, yes, I'll do it. But the other thing is actually doing it, taking action. And if we can do this in one single voice as a collective of photographers, it's going to get our plight heard a lot more. So I'm going to bring you over to Colin and everybody else in the group. Colin, so over to you. So if you can explain to people watching what the idea behind the Coalition of Photographers is, and how we're going to go about moving forward on behalf of everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Jeff, for inviting us on. It's fantastic to be sat alongside my colleagues again. We've had a really good week of positivity between us, sat alongside each other on Zoom meetings to really thrash out a plan to help not only our members, but our customers and the photographic industry as a whole. As we all know, the photography industry forms part of the creative industry sector, which was one of the most, most booming kind of industries. A lot of the businesses are small businesses, solo, people working on their own, and they've fallen through the cracks that the government support packages currently have. Many operate without premises, so they weren't able to get grants. Many of them being self-employed through private limited companies, so again couldn't get onto the furlough scheme. And we had this for many months in the industry, and collectively, individually, we were all working on our own to try and support our members through this. With restrictions now coming back into force again, the photography industry is really starting to feel the pinch. If we look at weddings, for example, we're restricted to 15 people in England. And what we're looking for is parity between the sectors. So a funeral can go ahead with double size in the same venue. So we're kind of asking, why is there a difference? So weddings, 15 people, funerals, 30. if we go to a pub later on in the day, the amount of visitors allowed inside that venue are looked after by the landlords, and they're not restricted to the same degree that weddings are. Again, we've got the rule of 6, so this is affecting our studio members and clients, trying to get in families. And of course, a big income for studio photographers is to get in, larger families in, getting in grandparents and cousins and uncles and all that kind of stuff. So naturally, studio photographers are also feeling the pinch. So what we're asking for the government for parity, and we're also asking for a substantial package to be put together, a financial package to be put together for the photography industry to support those people that can't work at the moment. There's lots of them. We started off the kind of the coalition looking at wedding photography, but obviously it's been expanded. So now we're looking at wedding photography, we're looking at portrait photographers, commercial photographers, event photographers, obviously not able to work at the moment, same as sports photographers. So, of course, we're going to go into detail with this all now, but what we're going to be doing is starting off by creating a press release that we're going to be sending to all the press. That's going to be going out later today. On Friday, we're asking as many photographers as possible to send a pre-written letter, which we will publish on our group, and send that to your local MP. The idea being that the amount of numbers and letters getting out there, if we can get the amount that we're hoping for, it will speak volumes about how hard the photography industry is being hit at the moment. So the idea being that we all send them on Friday, and they will be arriving with our local MPs on the Monday, which will also be our day of action. So this will be when the MPs start receiving their letters. We will also be flooding the press and media outlets with our cause about what we're trying to achieve. So Monday is really the date to be looking out for, where this will all come to a head. Obviously, it goes without saying that this is very new off the bat. We've only been together as a coalition for just over a week now, and we're all being sat around on Zoom meetings trying to work out a way forward. We've all been working individually very hard for our members and our customers, but we're now working fully together in one voice to support all our photographers and the industry as a whole. Monday is very much the phase 1 of what we're doing. Plans for going forward, we will be obviously updating ourselves and having more meetings and seeing what we can do to carry on helping the photography industry through this very tough time.
So Paul, is the letter just going to the MP, or are we sending multiple letters out to different agencies or different places?
So in essence, what we're asking for the photographers to do is send this letter to their MP. Of course, we as a coalition are going to be looking after the press side, although that's not to say that photographers can't contact their local press as well. Obviously, we're going to be dealing with the more national side of the news, but there would be fantastic coverage for local photographers to speak to their local media outlets, to showcase the businesses in their area that are struggling at the time. I know certainly in my local area, we've got a fantastic newspaper, and of course that goes onto the website as well and stuff like that. And they would be very keen to learn about how hard the businesses in their area are being affected. And photography is a big one, because we're not like a shop that can open, even pubs to some degree. I know they've got restrictions in place, but in some aspects of the photography industry, our members just cannot work at all. So it's going to be letters to the MP, and then we'll be contacting the press. But also, if any photographers out there want to contact their local press, then by all means do that.
Brilliant. And I know, Steve, I think you've got some idea of what the letter is actually saying, the letter contents. Can you sort of expand on that a little bit?
Well, collegially, what we've done in the letter, and we've made it fairly short, fairly snappy. It's under a page in length, and that's quite deliberate. And the key point is, and you mentioned this right at the beginning, it needs to be a letter, because letters have got to be opened. They can't fall into spam boxes. They can't disappear into the ether. They will have to be seen. So the value of sending a letter is actually quite enormous, because they've got to be opened. The message, there is a key message in bold on this letter, and it is parity. Financial parity with the other industries, such as hospitality and the support they've had. We haven't had it, and our members and the people in this industry are receiving nothing. The other side of parity is, again, it was touched on, is the parity of capability to operate. The restrictions that are placed on many photographers and videographers are so large that they're not in a position to make any income at all. So we've got that as the one message, but with two sub-branches from it, if you wish. There's a little bit of history that goes into the letter as well, pointing out the value of the industry and how much it matters to the government financially, and they need to be supporting it. And it's got a bit of a punchline at the bottom that if they don't actually act on it, we'll be looking at thousands and thousands of more people who are losing their income. And that's thousands more people who'll be looking for jobs. So hopefully the message will get through. But the key point is, and you said it, everybody needs to act. Everybody needs to go and get that stamp and post their letters. That's critical.
Brilliant. And you're talking about the industry as a whole. I mean, Jeremy might be able to expand on this a little bit more as well. So how are the manufacturers and suppliers being hit by this, and how are they feeling it? On behalf of, because obviously, I mean, even like the big boys like the Canon and Nikon, photographers probably aren't in a position to be spending money on new cameras.
No, thanks, Jeff. The whole point of this was this loose alliance of associations representing their memberships, representing photographers who are out there trying to earn a living. And part of that living is through the albums or the wall art or the prints or whatever it is that they happen to sell to their clients is also drying up. So, there's a number of manufacturers, labs and others all joined into this. And it's really to help this loose association, this loose alliance, if you like, to try and at least make some noise. And that's basically what it is. It's a place to make some noise for our industry, where the social photography industry was kind of almost unrepresented in a formal way. We're not a formal group. It is a bunch of volunteers who have got together out the willingness to try and help our industry. And people have to remember that, we've all got incredibly busy lives working our own businesses and our associations. And so we've taken that time to try and help both all the members of the different associations and people who aren't a member of anything and our customers as trade. So we've reached out to as many trade as we possibly can. There are some which are large corporations that have to go through formal processes to be able to say, yes, we're going to be a part of this. They've got to go to their board, they've got to go to their PR and their legal, and some will clearly not want to get involved because they don't get involved in politics. And whilst we're an apolitical group of people, the message is clear. Please look again at professional photography trade. Look at where those that have fallen through the gaps can be helped, just like you are with other different trades and different restaurant industry, for instance, how you help the restaurant industry. You are putting and committing money into many different areas. So the money is being created and allocated. So please look again at how you can help small limited companies, volunteers, etc., that work in our collective industry, be they photographers or videographers, and that's really what it is. It's we've never all sat down together before. Competitors in trade. I'm not going to say competitors and associations because each has its own strengths and its own plan and its path. But to bring everybody together, this is a monumental step. And I think everybody, even if you've got some sort of axe to grind, should be remembering this is to try and help all of us, in the best way that we possibly can.
Definitely. I mean, I think Ray touched on something just before we went live at the very beginning and said, you've got to remember that, that negativity in groups, in discussions doesn't solve anything. It doesn't get anywhere. There's so many people hurting. There's so many people suffering, but we've got to remain positive. Isn't that right, Ray? I mean, people are giving their time over here to try and help the industry, but we can't with magic wand.
Yeah, and I think what people have got to understand is, first and foremost, what we're doing is the very first step along a long path. We're going to be doing not just what's coming up over the next 3, 4, 5 days, but we will continue meeting or Zoom meetings. We will continue pushing the message forward and out there. We're not going to give up after this week when we get ignored. But what's fascinating, and we represent photographers that belong to organisations or associations or societies, but if you look at the people on the Facebook group and people that have been sending messages, they don't belong to any organisation. They need a voice as much as anybody else. And if they get involved, can you just imagine that MP sitting in his office, very, very rarely gets letters because everything is now an email and things like that. If all of a sudden, if every one of 600 odd MPs next Monday get a stack of letters on their desk, they are going to take notice. And if the word photography or videography or anything to do with the photographic professional industry keeps coming up over and over and over again, that is the drip feed that we need to make them sit up and take notice. And when the politicians talk to each other and meet, they're going to say, do you know what? I got a stack of letters the other day from photographers. Well, so did I. Well, perhaps we should talk about this, because the one thing that impresses politicians is numbers. Yeah. It's numbers that makes the difference. And if every single photographer that's even gone on the Facebook group, and somebody mentioned 14,000, if every one of those just sent a letter, can you imagine what it would do to the politicians? They would sure as hell take notice of us.
Definitely. And I think, what people have got to remember, Martin, is that this is just the first step in going forward, isn't it? And at least we're doing something. We've got to, bring people together. I mean, the British Institute of Professional Photographers has a huge membership, and bringing it together with all the other associations is the only way to sort of drive it forward, because you don't want different mixed messages, isn't it right?
Yes, it's very true. And I think one of the other important things to mention as well is that I think that our industry has been a little bit misunderstood. If you do look at other self-employed or small limited companies like plumbers or electricians, or they also were furloughed or off work for a number of months, but obviously they've come back to a full order book. They've still got the work, but in our industry, what's happened is either they've either been cancelled or they've moved to next year. So our customers or our members have come back to almost a year of no work now, which looks like it's going to next year. And I think that politicians forget that they kind of filled some of the gaps for some of the industries, but with ours it's seasonal. A lot of photography is seasonal, and that's just gone for this year. And I have members who've been crying, who are closing the business, and I really think that we've missed. And by all of us getting together as one single voice, I think it's a very big thing for us to do. It's a big thing for the industry, and I really want every member of every association and of every trade customer really just send a letter. It's as simple as that, to try and get our voice heard. And as Steve and Colin have said, there's kind of two things we want, and one is financial help for these people who have not had any money for a year, who are really, really now struggling, and also just to be on the same playing field as some of the other industries.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think both myself and obviously Karen, Karen's background in wedding photography as well, and Karen's lost so many bookings this year as well. So it's been really effective. It's not just this month's income, next month's income, going into income in 2021, and potentially with this new rule could go on for 6 months, then especially within the wedding industry, people need to be supported. Isn't that right, Karen?
Yeah, I think as well, what people have got to remember now that the government have said for the next 6 months that numbers are going to be reduced, particularly in weddings, that also has a knock-on effect on the weddings that are postponed and rescheduled from this year to next year. We're getting photographers now saying, well, the weddings that were planned for March, April, May time, they're now rescheduling for a third time. So it's kind of being passed on, and those bookings aren't coming in, and they're not actually now postponing, they're cancelling and saying, well, we just now need to see where things are going to be in 6 months' time, and then we'll re-look at it. So and that's just not the weddings. That's again with the rule of 6. That's people going out and doing family portraits. It's families in studios. It's event photography. It's sport photography. They can't get together. So it's had a knock-on effect on the whole of photography and video.
Definitely. I mean, I've even got the commercial clients, food photographers, hospitality trade photographers who are struggling because the hospitality trade is saying, well, we can't spend the same amount of money we did last year. It's for the hospitality trade, it's coming up to Christmas. They would normally spend the money on, new brochures, photographs for the social media. But if they're not getting the income coming in, then that's going to knock back to the photographers as well. Going back to Colin was saying that you've got 63 different companies that are or people within the industry who's on board and behind this and have said that they're prepared to move forward. So what's the next step, Colin?
Yeah, so as you say, this really is an open to all invitation to all trade, to all associations, to all photographers, anybody who has an interest in the industry. Then please get involved. It's not a clique. It's far from it. We're very much open, and we need as many people to help as possible. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So we're very fortunate that we've got up to 63 trade partners, associations, all involved at the moment, including ourselves. So there's 63 companies all going to be contacting their clients, their members, to get this letter out there in preparation for sending it to the MPs. If you're tuning in and you are a trade association or you work with photographers in some capacity, whether you're a training provider or you run a magazine or you have a photographic newsletter, whatever it may be, then please email help@coalitionofphotographers.com. I think it is help@coalitionphotographers.com. And then we'll be able to, direct you into the right place. Obviously, then we can feed you with all the details of the letter coming out, which you can pass on to the photographers, and generally just share the information that we've got going out there. If you can get involved with the press side, we also have launched today on the group a Facebook profile frame, so you can upload that to your own profile picture. This is to raise awareness within the public domain, because I think there's maybe a little bit of a lack of understanding what we're asking for, certainly in the public domain. We're not asking for massive weddings to be put back on. We're just asking, as Steve rightly said, parity between the industries out there. Show of solidarity between us all. We can share that Facebook profile frame as well, and that helps us get the message out about what we're trying to achieve. And obviously, as you start going through Facebook and you see all these Facebook profile frames coming up, you can see the amount of attraction and the amount of people that are really behind the initiative that we've got running here.
Brilliant. Obviously the letters come out. So the letters will be available tomorrow within the group. And
is it Thursday or Friday they're being released? Steve will know.
They will be released in the morning. They'll be finalised. They'll be coming out tomorrow. And on top of the MP, whilst I want to focus on our MP, we'll also be giving 2 or 3 key governmental department addresses as well. They're the ones where the sacks will arrive, because obviously we're all got different MPs in our different areas, but we want to actually hit some of the key departments within government as well, so they can see the mass nature of this. And like I said, the key point is letters, because they have to be opened. The emails, too many fall away, too many get lost. So collectively, that's what we're focusing on. All this will be released in the Facebook group, the Coalition of Photographers group. That's where we need people to get in there. And as Colin has just touched on, this new frame, pop it on your page, folks, share it out. The more we get out there, the better, because it's delivering a mass message online as well.
Brilliant. And then, so obviously we get these letters available for us to download. What we've got to do is get those addresses, write them, sign the letters, put the stamps on, post them on Friday, and then have we got, is there an action plan for the following week? Because obviously these letters are going to be hitting people's doorsteps probably Saturday or Monday morning?
I think the key point will be what happens, what the response is. If the response is positive, then obviously we're going to be reinforcing that. If we don't get a response, we'll be reviewing it. Important for us all is to be talking to all of those who've got involved as to what would you like to happen next. And I think that's the next key stage. You know, we are, let's say, a volunteer group. We've been massively supported. We kind of semi-announced this on Sunday, and already the Facebook group that we never really expected to have anything, happening in has already got 4,400 members. You know, people have come in and gone out because they weren't sure what it was about. But I urge you to stay a part of it, because that's where we'll make the announcements. We also want your feedback as to what's going to happen next, because, you know, as has happened with COVID, nobody knows what's happening next. And for us, we've got to see how the response is, what we can do to help everybody and to rebuild this trade. Just a quick one, just to highlight on those diversity between the venues. If you think about a church, if it's set up for social distancing and it's a 400-seater church and it can have 150 people in it on a Sunday for worship, but on the next day it can have a funeral of 30 people in it, and the following day it can have a wedding of 15. That makes no sense. And I think, and similarly in Northern Ireland, the wedding venue can determine how many people can be in that venue based on the social distancing that venues are supposed to provide. It just doesn't add up. We're not proposing anything that's going to make people less safe. We just want there to be a review of what makes sense on all of the different venues, but not to penalise weddings unnecessarily so, because they represent a huge amount of income for an awful lot of people, both the photographers, the videographers, and all the extended businesses, wedding cake companies, florists, etc. And everyone's trying to create some voice. This group is to help the photographers and videographers, and I'm sure the other groups and us will come together at some point to try and make an even bigger voice. But as we say, we don't know right now, so we don't know what the next steps are likely to be. But I think it's a case of watch this space, let's see what happens, but give us your input.
Brilliant. And just Steve might be able to answer this one. So I noticed somebody had posted in the group, what's the who's actually running, so who's in control of all this? So is there between all the bodies and everything, is there one person who's decided to be the spokesperson who's running the whole thing? And obviously people have got to remember that, you know, even just running the Facebook page alone with, you know, nearly 4,500 members, somebody's given up their time for that. You know, we're all professional people with time, and that's why I keep urging, you know, people to be positive. You know, negativity doesn't accomplish anything. Be patient and be nice to each other. You know, we're a professional body of people coming together with one voice. So who's actually behind the whole thing, then, Steve?
The industry. It's as simple as that. We've all made our efforts as we've been going along. We have been speaking to each other. We have LinkedIn. We have tried our best. We've got some variable responses from the government to date. And the latest thing, the change that they made to the weddings was, I think, the final straw for all of us, because that really threw that sector out of kilter. Over 75,000 weddings have now been cancelled or deferred from this year. That's a huge figure in terms of income from the photographers and everybody else. It's disrupting things massively. When we do weddings of 30 people, we actually saw a chink of light in that sector. So it was helping there. Schools are no different. School photographers, some schools will take them on, some won't let them in. So we need that parity, that's the key point. There's no one driver here. The industry is the driver, the photographers are the driver, we're just facilitating.
Brilliant. And I think one thing to sort of like finish on to sum up, and if anybody else has any other points, is, you know, the key point of this broadcast and going live is to raise awareness, but to just, you know, say to people, print those letters out tomorrow, get them in the post on Friday. What I would recommend doing, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a photograph of myself with the letters. You know, if there's additional addresses, I'll send them out to all the addresses that are put out there. I'll take a selfie of myself with the letters, and I'll say what I'm doing, and I'll stick that on LinkedIn, I'll stick that on Facebook, because it's so easy for people to just say, oh yeah, I'll do that. You know, we can all say we do it, but literally it's going to take you 10 minutes, you know, if that. You know, be prepared. Don't get your stamps tonight, don't get your envelopes tonight, and you're sorted. All you got to do is print the stuff out tomorrow and pop them in the post box, and then you've actually taken a step towards it, because there's no point in sort of like complaining and being negative. If you don't, you've got to do something. And this is the first small step in a mass action that we can all do, and we're only going to get heard if the volume's there, as Steve pointed out before. So has anybody else got anything else they'd like to input in before we end the discussion?
If nobody does nothing, nothing will happen. Therefore, every single individual is important. One letter from every photographer will make a difference, and everybody should realise that.
Definitely will. Anybody else got anything to say?
I just want to say thank you to you, Jeff, for hosting this for us, and for anyone watching, is just be kind to each other. We are all in the same boat. We've seen what's some of the comments that go on in the groups. We're all singing from the same hymn sheet, and we've just got to all work together, and that's the bottom line. There's no egos in any of this. We've all come together as associations and as trade to offer something to the photographers, and as Steve said, just to facilitate something happening for photographers. So we're here for you and to help you, and to have one voice. It's not about any one of us individually, it's about the whole industry together.
Brilliant. Yeah, totally right. Thanks for that, Karen. So anybody else got anything to say before we go?
No, I think it's all been said. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks again for helping spread the word, and let's be nice to everybody.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys, and thanks everybody else on LinkedIn. Take care.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.